everyone. I am Molly, the Kush RN, and you've reached Conversations with Kush. Today, I have a wonderful opportunity to sit down with two incredible professionals that are local to us, Mr. Mark Waller and Miss Laura Hand. Mark is a CPA, co-founder and CEO of Morem and Waller with Betsy. And Laura Hand is the founder and CEO of Laura Lou Experience Design. Yeah. So thank you both for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Today we've come together, and so you bring out this great experience, and we're going to talk about your new endeavor with the Cannabis Travel Association International. So how do those things blend together?
Yeah.
How do they come together?
This is a hugely important topic for the cannabis industry, I think, in general. Having the ability to know about cannabis travel opportunities and having both consumers and businesses know how to kind of meet each other in the middle is really important, not just for those businesses, but also to help destigmatize cannabis use in general. And so I joined the board alongside Laura a couple of years ago. The organization, for background, was founded in 2018 in California. And so we've been working with the founders of that organization, which continues to go on. Brian Applegarth, who's really an expert in the field in California and really passionate about cannabis travel, is on our advisory board. But now that Minnesota is starting to come legal and we're starting to see more activity, Laura and I, being based here in the Midwest, are thinking, okay, we need to bring this energy to Minnesota and to the Midwest, where California is, 10 years or so ahead of us.
Right.
And so we need to be able to tell people about these types of things here in Minnesota. So I feel like this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, agreed. What kinds of businesses get involved with the association, Laura?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people hear the name of the organization as a nonprofit and think that we are the ones organizing the travel. And so what we really do is we exist to have businesses be our members. And those members range from being a cannabis wedding tour operator, or a tour operator that takes people to cultivation sites and takes them around to different dispensaries. We have the technology side that's trying to organize, bring that together, such as events, all the way to travel agents that are taking people around the world, cannabis wellness resorts. And so we keep on seeing, consumption lounges. And I think part of the fun for Mark and I to be part of this is that we get new people approaching us all the time. And we're like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that as a concept for cannabis travel and tourism. So we get to learn along the way and be that kind of creative sponge and learn.
Sure.
And so it's evolving all the time.
So it is an international organization. Where are you finding most of the places are located?
Well, California still. Because it was originally the California Cannabis Travel Association, and there were several years of that being its base. That's still a good portion of the members. And then we just had more people around the world reaching out saying, what about us? Can we join? And so that's why we decided to evolve it to an international stage.
Okay.
So it's definitely growing, and I kind of see that feeding out from California to the Midwest, East Coast, and beyond.
Okay. Where are some of the international places, and how does that factor into legality and whatnot?
I could speak on the Thailand.
Yeah.
The Beach Samui is a resort in Koh Samui, Thailand. And so they were one of our first international members. And then of course, I talk about Coral Cove in Jamaica as well. But the one in Thailand I could speak to is, they're a luxury cannabis wellness resort, and they are very discreet in regards to how they market themselves. And so it's all around holistic plant wellness medicine. They've got a dispensary on site, and they have an herbalist there that can work with you. And I just personally went a couple months ago. So it was just a fantastic experience of being able to sit down with the herbalist at check-in and go through a whole checklist of what have I tried? What am I excited to try? What do I need some guidance on? And as well as my partner who had never done any of that. So it was great to feel that we were safe. We knew exactly kind of what the rules around cannabis was in that country.
Right.
I think that's usually the largest hurdle that I hear from people when they're traveling is, where do I get it? How can I safely consume it? How do I know the laws? And how can I just do it in a safe space that I can be present and fully enjoy it without being, afraid of something happening?
Yeah. I'm so glad to see these things popping up and like this association shaping up so that people know where they can go to consume if they want to. Like the biggest question that I get from people is, hey, how can I smuggle my drugs into Mexico? And I think about those things too. Like, how am I going to consume my medicine while I'm gone, on vacation? Right. So it's reassuring to hear of these things that are popping up. I think there's also a really great opportunity for showcasing what the country might have available. So whatever their local plant medicine might be, to offer that experience to people.
Yeah. So, and people are not just trying or traveling just for the plant. I mean, they're on average trying to figure out more or partake more in the local culture and learn about the agriculture and the historic significance of the plants and other plant medicines. And so being able to do that is a big reason that people do travel to different countries as well as different regions within the United States.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and I think part of that is what we have found as an organization is tourists will spend more money if they are able to consume cannabis at the locations they're at. So from a business standpoint, hotels and places that are accepting of cannabis use should be happy and excited about bringing those types of tourists in, as long as they're set up and obviously educated in how to support those types of members. But a lot of studies have shown that those types of opportunities bring economic drivers to the places that are promoting those tourist opportunities.
Amongst the association, then, is there like a type of a vetting process to make sure that there are those kinds of like safeguards for people in place, or is that kind of up to each individual business? Or
yeah, I mean, I think for our members, we obviously need to know that they are going to be able to support good cannabis travel practices and things like that. But I think us providing them the resources to be able to kind of get together and speak with one another. We've had in 2024, we've had regular networking meetings with folks that are in that space, that are interested in cannabis travel, both from a business side and kind of from a plant medicine side. So just kind of bringing those folks together, it seems to be the best way to do that.
Yeah. And we also have the good member guidelines. So
okay, great.
It's not a curriculum by any standpoint, but it's just having them, because we're a community, we are an association that exists, but we exist to bring everybody together to further the conversation on cannabis travel and tourism. And so together we need to uphold good quality standards, because we are being looked at through a very small lens, microscope. And so what we do impacts the entire community. And so those good member guidelines are just things like, you are going to have a safe environment and take care of your patrons and so on. And then we've got some other great resources like our advocacy toolkit and our data reports. I think the data reports just show the amount of money that people are spending, what types of experiences they enjoy partaking in. And so that when you are building a business, it's really important to know your consumer and know what they are really looking for. And so that you can come up with a minimal viable product of serving those people in your area.
So there's that component of the market research already built into this repository, essentially.
Absolutely.
So I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. What are some of the key challenges that you see from like the global standpoint, or even here locally, nationwide?
I mean, I think locally it's still just informing people about opportunities and getting people to know that there are these opportunities. I think what we're seeing, and Laura and I were at Earl Giles last night, and we already in our conversations are finding people that are offering types of cannabis opportunities, travel, I guess, like shuttles to certain spaces, for example, would be the type of thing that would happen. And so just getting kind of that network together is really important. And so having opportunities to get together, whether they're on Zoom, whether they're in-person events, and just kind of letting people meet each other. I think that's the beauty of, especially here in Minnesota, we have a great community, and when people come together, it's really magical. So I think we just want to bring that opportunity to the community.
Yeah. And with federally it being illegal, it's hard to do anything with search engines and social media, as I'm sure everybody has.
We all feel the pains of, right?
And it's just, so how else are you supposed to let people know that you even exist? And so those in-person networking events are just so crucial because, as I was telling you earlier, we are approached by individuals who are like, I'm building the very first of this or the very first of this. And it's like, well, you think you are because you've been in the silo.
Right.
And there are others that are building a similar concept. And if you can work together and learn from each other, best practices, and share your network and knowledge, it's just going to help this entire community grow faster.
Yeah. I would think one of the challenges would be just to like the legality issues in every different spot, right? Like what can you consume? How much? How much can you have on your person? Things of that nature, like what they can sell if they're, selling products to consume right on site there. So, it seems like it would be something that would have to be overcome, but
and again, it's been interesting because and it shifts so often with the legalities of what you can consume and where. And so we really rely on having kind of passionate ambassadors or different members that are the ones that know that area and can help, again, through that networking, help educate each other, because it's just changing so often. It's really hard for us, to try to stay on top of that.
Yeah. And because it is such a rapidly evolving space, what do you think are some of like the misconceptions or barriers that people face when it comes to traveling with cannabis or knowing that they're going to be able to get a product that is enjoyable to consume when they get there?
I think that's really challenging because, if you say, take your cannabis on an airplane, that's really pretty risky to do.
Right.
As a CPA, I can't even imagine ever doing that because that, you can risk all kinds of things, even if the penalty is small or big, it's very risky. So, being able to, give folks guidelines on what to do, where to go. There's a lot of work to be done there, obviously, because it still very much feels like the Wild West about, how to go to a dispensary and find the products you want and need when you travel.
Yeah.
And just to give an example of good things that are happening. So Visit Modesto is a good example of, they know they are a good, I think they call themselves like a sleepy town. And so they target the locals in, a 2-hour, 3-hour driving distance. And they've got a great app so that people can go to that app and kind of choose your own adventure. And so they know when they are going to that city, where they can go to find dispensaries, what the laws are in consumption, what friendly places are just to be able to consume, whether that is hotels, parks, and so on.
Yeah, nice.
So just, I think that's a huge opportunity for destinations to be able to have that type of a resource.
Yeah.
Because if you are looking at 2 different locales and you are wanting to consume, I'm naturally going to choose the one that is very forward and giving me all the information to allow for that easy access.
Right. Does the association serve mostly like the businesses then, or do they also is it, like a travel thing where just a traveler can access and be like, oh, hey, there's this great app. I'm going to go to Modesto, so I'm going to use this. Or
we'd love to have an app someday. That's it would be a huge lift. I think at this point we're still primarily serving the businesses, I think, but with this mission in mind that, there's really a lot that can be done.
For sure.
Like we've done California, and that, there's still a lot to be done there. And we're just starting the process in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a big need is being able to find a resource of all these different locations. So with our website, we're hoping to this year to build out a directory for businesses, which by even having that as a resource, it's going to be a natural thing for consumers to be able to find and use, which will again help the businesses.
Definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. So what are some of like the exciting trends or destinations that you're seeing come up then?
I mean, for me, I think about this locally here in Minneapolis actually is obviously we're still working on the full adult use dispensaries, but just the opportunity to go to a venue and buy a THC beverage and go to a concert and watch a concert with THC beverage instead of a beer, like that, just those little things are to me really eye-opening. I got to do that for the first time last year, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Over at the Parkway Theater in Minneapolis.
Awesome.
So, I want to be able to think about how do we bring and inform folks about those types of opportunities first, and then educate them about where to go to find them.
Sure. Hopefully we'll see a push kind of, it's gone away over the last, I don't know, decade or so, smoking areas, but hopefully we'll start to see those coming back around and people really being intentional about having a place where people can go and smoke or consume their medicine if they want to.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Something I'd definitely like to see for sure.
Yeah. And as hotels are built up, there's just education around the staff and like the concierge so that hotel guests are able to talk to somebody and kind of figure out where they can consume or to have different ventilation systems around the rooms to be able to properly ventilate. There's just a big opportunity to do it in a discreet way where it's not like we're being hoarded off into the side corner of some block down the road to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The more we can get images or, even ideas of it being normal, I think the better off we'll be from my standpoint anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the association helps travelers somewhat, businesses. How can the association help like policymakers understand the importance of safe and responsible cannabis while traveling?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we've been we've developed and are continuing to develop are those kind of educational materials that talk about what is cannabis travel, where can you go to consume, and so I think all of that is part and parcel to being able to provide opportunities for folks who are talking to their legislators about cannabis consumption. So I'm thinking just locally here in Minnesota, obviously we have cannabis consumption hasn't really been defined yet. We haven't really talked about or defined exactly what that is or how that is to be. And so I feel like organizations like ours have an opportunity to be at the table there to talk about what has worked in other locations. We can bring that network together from what's happening in California to like Laura was saying, internationally. How do those opportunities work? And maybe we can provide solid examples of how that could work here.
Sure.
And one example is we have the advocacy toolkit. So that is a downloadable resource for everybody. And it comes with templates and different or templates of emails and like who you should be reaching out to in your community. Unlike a lot of other organizations or associations and groups, like cannabis has to build community.
Yeah.
And so they have to build that dialogue with all those different community groups from parent groups, school boards, community foundations, the police force. And so the toolkit just goes through who are some of those main groups that you should be reaching out to to start that conversation. And then some of the conversation topics of what the answers are. So a very common question is, what about overconsumption and DUI and getting out on the road and or access to children and things like that. So it's good for people to know that those questions are going to be immediately asked. So come with the answer and to be able to start that dialogue.
Yeah. It's hard enough to like come out if you're, in a specific community. I'm thinking of maybe even like a smaller community and say, hey, I use cannabis. It's hard enough to do that. But then to have to like get people to rally around you and face law enforcement or, legislators. Like you need support around you. So that's nice. That's really awesome. I love that.
And especially, I grew up in a small town in Minnesota. So that's a perfect example. We're in the Twin Cities right now. The conversation about cannabis has been a little bit more advanced than when you drive to greater Minnesota.
Definitely.
It's a little bit more behind there. And, you certainly are going to face different challenges, different, prejudices, I'll say, in those locations. So yeah, as much as we can put a professional, safe face on consumption, I think is all the better.
I love it. Thank you. I support that work 100%.
Absolutely.
How did you guys meet? Like, what's your origin story? Let's get back to like the heart of it.
Yeah. Back in 2020, I was looking at a career change, as everyone was during COVID. And in the midst of that, one of the things that blew my mind was dispensaries were named an essential business during COVID. And so that got me thinking about starting my accounting firm and really focusing on cannabis, knowing that there's a huge need for cannabis accounting services. My business partner, Betsy Morem, who's a friend of mine for several years, I started talking to her about what should I do? And we started talking and eventually realized, hey, we should work together. So we started the firm in 2021. And actually during COVID, Laura and I met on Clubhouse, which was back in 2020 during COVID. There were all these Clubhouse meetings where nobody could get together at all around cannabis, and so I think that's where we first ran into each other.
Yeah, that was the very first time I had ever been exposed to anything around cannabis conversations.
Yeah, me too.
And Minnesota had a great little page that, I'm from Iowa, so being able to jump on the Minnesota Clubhouse and be able to meet some of these people were great.
Yeah. How do you get cannabis to come to Iowa? How does it happen, Laura? How can we make it happen?
Well, we tried to do a just an informational meeting a couple of years ago, and so that we could start the conversation. And I thought we'd have hundreds of people show up, and maybe 50. And the message was, I was afraid that my license plate, somebody's going to take a picture, or the police were going to be waiting in the parking lot. So the stigma is still there. And we started increasing, like we had edibles and beverages. And then some of our regulations were scaled back recently, so we can only have 12 ounces of beverage with 4 milligrams, and that's pretty much all.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the hemp market.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a lot of product availability there? Are people really crafting a lot or not so much?
They were prior to this rollback.
Okay.
And so we do have a medical market, but I think there's maybe 3 dispensaries that you can choose from, but they have maybe 20 products, 20 SKUs. So it's very limited. And it's been an interesting process. My mother is quadriplegic. And so and that was 2 years ago. So going through that whole process of getting her a medical card is not easy. And then once she has the medical card, being a caregiver, she has to go travel 2 hours to a dispensary to be able to get to these products. And so you have to pay an extra fee to be a caregiver for me to be able to go do that for her. So it's just been a very arduous process.
Sure.
And especially just from the medical perspective of how does it interact with her other medications? What should she be using? I'm glad I have such a more deep knowledge than I did before to be able to help her, but it's still been, I can't imagine, just for the typical person or patient that's trying to access in Iowa.
Right. Do her providers know much about cannabis, or once you started kind of inquiring about it, did they kind of get on board and get educated about it?
No. So
frustrating.
Yeah. And that's kind of my origin story was I lost my brother to a heart attack when he was 25 from drug addiction and opioid addiction. And then 2 years later, my dad had brain cancer. So, and this is, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So during that process was when, I started asking questions of like, I've heard all these great stories about cannabis helping with pain reduction, or at least, maybe curing cancer. And I was always met with, we just can't recommend it. We can't condone it. We don't know where to start. So that's why I got into it. I wanted to just help other families have different outcomes. And obviously it has not come far enough with the current situation, but we'll get there. Otherwise, there's other states.
How have you seen it help your mom?
So she suffers from muscle spasms. And so we've been able to find if she is using like patches or tinctures, she's able to have some type of reduction.
Awesome.
Otherwise, slathering her body in topical, but that gets really expensive.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So that's kind of the biggest hurdle is if we do find something, it is expensive to resupply.
Well, hopefully the opening up of people's minds and hearts to cannabis will happen sooner rather than later, because you can see even from a personal experience how much it's impacted your family and been a benefit.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. How did you come to cannabis?
Really, I was late to the game, honestly, in my life. But again, going back to COVID, everybody being kind of shut down, really was a period where I kind of reassessed my career thoughts and my life thoughts. My wife, Bridget, and I, we had two young kids when COVID hit, who were in kindergarten and preschool. And it was, it was a very dire time for parents with young children, because losing those connections is really, really, really hard.
Yes.
And so, kind of in hand with, looking at, wow, the cannabis industry is deemed an essential service, really kind of opened my mind. In the meantime, I was realizing, like many other people, during COVID, that, okay, I'm making myself more drinks at home than I ever have before. And at first it was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And then, after a while, it's like, this is really messing with me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so, gradually I kind of started to try more cannabis products. And, fast forward to today where, I haven't, cut alcohol out completely, but I'll have a beer here and there, but not nearly to the point where it was during COVID. And to counter that, I found, especially for me, kind of micro dosing, the CBN type of products at night has been really, really good for my sleep and for just my overall mental health. And, I'm definitely, I still have children at home. They're now 11 and 9. And so I don't smoke at home, and it's not really workable for me to do that. But, the edible products and beverages have been really wonderful for me. And so, I'm just really excited to see that develop in Minnesota and to, meet folks that are, passionate about products. I'm a huge coffee nerd myself.
Same.
So I feel like there's a lot of parallels there between coffee and cannabis and finding good products and things that work for you and things that taste good. There's a lot of overlap there. So.
I'm actually really proud of our market. I feel like we have a lot of good products on the market, especially in the hemp derived space. I mean, I'm excited to see when adult rec opens up, what else will come about. But I think we do such a great job here, and it's
absolutely,
I hope that, comes to fruition in Iowa. I know in Wisconsin, their limits are so high.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can definitely get a lot of variety of products there, but the limits are usually pretty high. Yeah. So, well, thank you for sharing your personal story too. Do you feel like did it help you be a better parent? And
I'm just a week ago, I had a cannabis beverage, not crazy amount, but along with, reading my kids a bedtime story. Yeah. And it was those little moments where it's I feel like I'm at their level where like if you're doing a job all day long, you feel like you're maybe at this like very adult serious mode all the time. But like it's definitely helped me connect with that kind of that silly, sweet self that is so important to have with young kids.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Pretty soon you'll have to be thinking about those conversations that you'll have with them about
Absolutely.
cannabis. So
yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
What are you most excited for? What types of businesses are you most excited to see kind of coming forward with this new travel association?
I mean, I think locally in Minnesota, I'm just excited to see shops open in Minneapolis and St. Paul. You know, like I mentioned, we have a great, coffee shop type of vibe already here. Like I can already tell that folks that are looking to open stores here are going to have a similar type of thing. So just having that kind of pleasant retail experience and community and education, I think I'm super excited about. And then greater Minnesota travel opportunities. I know there's so many opportunities like that in the summer when Minnesota weather is beautiful.
Right.
I'm
just excited to see what types of opportunities there are out there for outdoor types of cannabis events.
Yeah.
And all of it is you get to re-experience it. So whether it's an art museum, food, going out in nature, like those different cultivars are going to just change and enhance any of those existing scenarios. So I think even for locals that have never tried it, or now just people traveling in, it's just a different opportunity to experience something that they may or have already done, but with cannabis.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit earlier before we got the show started about how just curating a really safe place for people to do that consumption and know, like, I'm in a place where they're being mindful about, what they have to offer. And, I'm surrounded probably by people that I love. I'm on vacation with. Hopefully you love them.
Absolutely.
So it like creates this, space where you can feel free to try things if you've been away from it before, if you've never tried it before. So
and as a mom, like I deal with decision fatigue a lot. And so when you are taking kids anywhere, I've got 2 teenage boys, there's just so much you have to plan ahead about every little detail. And so if you are looking for a replacement for alcohol, for something that can just help you be more present with your children, it's just so nice to know that you can go to a place that it is whatever you're needing, discreet, available, there's safe access, education around it, and that like I don't have to over-research yet another thing.
Yeah. Well, and, speaking to being present with your children, even just being present on your vacation, like get into the moment and like turn the work off for a while. Like this is why we're here, I'd really love to see like maybe little cabins or something like that, where it's cannabis-friendly or, they have like a group thing that they do every night, sing around the campfire. I don't know what it could be, but
Camp Canna. Yeah, there's a group out of Toronto that has that. So it's like a week-long adult cannabis camp.
Okay.
So you get to redo all of the things of your childhood.
Yeah, awesome.
All themed around cannabis.
Talk about some of the other businesses that have been really intriguing to you. I know we talked a little bit about that one, thank you, and the one in Thailand. How about some other ones? Have you visited some places, Mark?
I, just in traveling with the Cannabis Travel Association, we had a retreat in 2023 in Palm Springs, and they have an amazing dispensary and consumption lounge scene really in the city. So we got to go to, I think it's called the 420
I can't remember.
Bank. I'm blanking on the name of it.
Yeah.
But those types of venues where consumption is allowed and they have musicians playing music. It's a pretty chill vibe, so it's not super crazy, not super noisy, but just like a really relaxed kind of location. Like those are the types of things I think really bode well for the industry as a whole and are really positive experiences.
Yeah. It's such a different experience when people are out and they're consuming cannabis versus when they're out and they're consuming alcohol.
Very much. Yeah, that's the big difference with cannabis weddings that we're seeing.
Yeah. Okay. Talk more about that.
So I think Rachel Gordon just got married, and she's in Minnesota.
At
So
Molly's.
she had a cannabis wedding. I've not yet personally experienced it. From what I've heard, it's just a great way to curate the feelings of the evening.
Sure.
And so instead of cannabis, where you have this like incline to crazy, that often happens, it's being able to kind of set the ebb and flow of what you want to do. So whether it's in your appetizers and you start introducing more THC, and each guest, of course, has already been talked to find out, do they want to consume?
Yep.
How much do they want to consume? When do they want to consume? So really paying attention to the needs of each of your guests, of course, of children, whoever is attending, and being able to put maybe more in the meal, and then at the end of the night, just high CBD to kind of bring everybody down, or to have it in your desserts, like your cakes, that people can kind of take as much as they want. So it's just kind of it's more chill from what I've heard, of course.
Yeah.
And I think it just allows, again, everybody to be present and enjoy kind of that beautiful moment that you're trying to curate, through that couple.
And again, speaking to the differences between alcohol and cannabis, I mean, cannabis is medicine. So it's such a more intentional experience.
Definitely.
You sit down to like an old fashioned and be like, I'm going to intend on being more patient, like I think, cannabis can be more of a spiritual or a mood regulator than alcohol can be. So yeah. Awesome. Tell us where we can find you guys.
You can find Morem Waller on Instagram at Morem Waller CPA. I'm on LinkedIn. Just search Mark R. Waller CPA. And we have our own YouTube channel. We do we do monthly webinars, and then for Cannabis Travel Association. Why don't you take that one, Laura?
Yeah. So the Cannabis Travel Association is cannabistravelAssociation.org. And then we are on Instagram, Facebook, soon to be TikTok and Reddit, but it's Cannabis Travel Association.
And how about Laura Lou?
So Laura Hand of Laura Lou Experience Design. And so I'm a fractional CMO in the space. So I help with marketing and customer journey mapping to build ideal customer or guest experiences. And you can find me on LinkedIn. My website is customerdelightprocess.com, and kind of all the channels of Laura Lou Experience Design.
And it's not specific to cannabis, but you do work with those types of brands, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Any final thoughts, guys, that you want people to know about the association or?
I think, we have a lot of volunteers. Every time we talk to folks about the organization, we get a lot of people very interested in it. And so we have a great team of volunteers that have reached out with us, have worked with us in 2024. We're always looking for more people. So if you're interested in helping out in any way, check out the website, and we'll certainly be active in 2025 and beyond.
I want to volunteer to go check out the spaces.
Yeah, like a secret shopper.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I'll also mention is, we know we're kind of ahead of our time. And so we get to do a lot of the inspiration and kind of 101 around education. So for 2025, we're going to lower our membership costs. So it's just $25 for the entire year for anybody. And what we're trying to shift is kind of what can we do for you, and it's what can we do together. So by kind of lowering that barrier of entry, people can be put on that directory, have access to all those great toolkits, some of our networking events, and hopefully we'll start doing some in-person events. I think we're trying to plan something here in Minnesota to kind of build out and have people come in and learn about the advocacy toolkit.
Great. And
how do you put on a safe event? How do you do infused dining experiences? How should you build your consumption lounge so that it is a tourist destination? And so we're going to try to do some education around that.
That's awesome. I love that support for business, for people thinking about, getting a license and maybe doing, a consumption lounge, because I feel like we're really going to need those places. And I feel like that's one area where like they just don't maybe have a lot of support.
Yeah.
So,
and when you think of something, there's like the business aspect, and then there's like hospitality. And when you're in hospitality, you just understand that there's so much more that goes into all the little details. And as hopefully the market doesn't become saturated, but experience is going to be key.
Yeah.
It's not going to be price, not necessarily location. It's going to be the experience that you provide. And so being able to understand the hospitality mindset in whether you're building a dispensary or a consumption lounge or an event space, like that is going to be key to being able to draw in both locals as well as tourists.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. So you heard it first. If you are a business thinking about getting into the cannabis travel space, please check out the association's website. And if you need marketing help or CPA help, please check out Laura and Mark. So thanks, you guys, for being here.
Thank you.
Tax day is just around the corner.
Exactly. You're probably so swamped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, that's it for Conversations with Kush. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe on all platforms, including YouTube and audio platforms. So have a great day. Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks.